Hello, my name is Sofia, and this is the walkthrough to the 2025 inCyber Forum OSINT Challenge. This exercise was specifically created for those attending the inCyber OSINT Day on April 1st, 2025. If you were there, I hope you enjoyed it. If not, maybe next time. The challenge is now available to everyone on my website, so check out the link in the description to give it a go first. If you have already completed, well done, you should be very proud. If you're here because you want to find out how to solve it, I hope you find this video useful. So welcome to the 2025 inCyber Forum OSINT Challenge. Such a mouthful. Task briefing. The screenshot below contains a description of an event accompanied by 2 photos. Despite the lack of details, it's still possible to gather a significant amount of information about what transpired that evening. Your task is to find A, the name of the underground station where the person most likely boarded, B, the name of the huge road mentioned in the text, and C, assuming there were no delays, the exact time in hours and minutes when the second photo was taken. You can click here and here to open the photos seen below on new tabs, so 1 and 2, and let's check what the text says. It appears to be a screenshot of a Facebook post from the 7th September 2010, and it says, "Back from Madrid, had a great time with my colleagues on a short trip. I took loads of photos, but these 2 were my favorite because they were the start and ending point of such a random decision. We were all together on a night out in the city center when I started feeling a bit antsy. So I got up, told them I'll be back soon, walked to the nearest underground station and just took the next train. I sat there for over half an hour, then decided to get off and see where on earth I had ended up. I immediately stumbled upon some sort of outdoor cinema just across this huge road. How crazy is that? I sat down to watch it for a bit because it was free, and if it's free, I'm doing it. Honestly, I could barely understand the story. It wasn't even in Spanish, but it was something about the father and son traveling to Mecca. I gave up halfway through, to be honest. But the main thing was this unexpected sense of freedom. My colleagues had no idea where I had gone, I had no idea where I was going, and the people around me had no idea who I was. Anyway, I'm back home, safe and sound, more photos coming soon." So there's not going to be any more photos. This is it. You may notice this symbol here. It indicates that this post was only shared with friends, therefore it would not be visible to the public. I made the search to give a hint to people to not bother trying to find this post on Facebook, and also because it's not real, I created it. Right, so before we start, I have a small confession. These are my photos, and this is a true story. I was the one who abandoned my colleagues on our short trip to Spain in 2010 and ended up watching this random film in the evening, and it was quite nice. And if you're wondering whether I went back as promised, I did not. I never went back. I just abandoned them. This was many years ago, but I still have this tendency to just disappear whenever I find myself in social events. Sometimes I return, but not always. Right, so let's get this party started and figure out where on earth I went on the evening described in the text. So the first task asks us to name the underground station where the person most likely boarded. It says on the text they were on a night out in Madrid city center, and the photo on the left shows a busy street where people were sitting and socializing, therefore matching the description. The person says, "I got up and walked to the nearest underground station." That means that we need to figure out where this photo was taken and then identify the closest station. Pretty simple, right? So let's analyze the first photo. Here it is. First of all, so much yellow. This is so much yellow. Fun fact, even if I hadn't included a date on the post, you would still be able to establish that this is an old photo at a glance. Madrid, just like many other major cities across the world, currently have LED bulbs on their street lights. However, this was not always the case. Prior to 2014, the Spanish capital had sodium lamps, and they emit a warm yellow glow such as this one. So all this yellow tells us that this photo is at least 10 years old. But let's focus on geolocating this and not get sidetracked with pretty lights. So there are a few signs visible. You can see there's signs here and there. And with a bit of luck, these establishments will still exist. The most obvious one is this one here at the end of the street that seems to say O'Connell. So let's bring up Google Maps, go to Madrid and start typing O'Connell and look at that. There are a few options, but only one of them is for Madrid, so it's the first one. Let's check it out. Okay, so it seems to say O'Connell Street. Let's zoom in and check it out. So the street is actually not called O'Connell, it's just the pub is called O'Connell Street, it seems. And we can see a photo here. Let's just click it and look at that nice sign. It does look very similar to the one from our challenge, doesn't it? Look at that. Here we go. I believe this has street view, so let's check out the street view and check out more dates because we want to see if this was around in 2010. So the earliest we can get is 2008, which is good enough, whatever. The sign hasn't really changed that much. We know that the photo, this one, was taken facing the sign, so let's try to put ourselves there. So off we go and turn this way. Try to go back 2017, which is fine because we already established this was there in 2008. And now let me just bring the other photo so we can quickly compare. And here we go. Look at this perfect match. Let me zoom a bit. We have the sign, of course, we have the tree on both sides, we have the balconies at the top, we have the street lights. Brilliant, it's perfect. So we have confirmed this is the correct location of where the person was on a night out in Madrid city center, but we need to find the name of the nearest underground station. So let me exit this, maximize it as well, and zoom out a bit to see where is the closest underground station. And look, we have spotted it. It's there, and it's called Seoul. Therefore, we have answered the first task. So far so good. This was a very straightforward task, mostly because I wanted people to have an easy win at the start of the challenge, so they were full of confidence going into the second task. Okay, so now we need to find, let's see what we need to find. We need to find the name of the huge road mentioned in the text. And in order to do that, we'll need to geolocate the second photo. So let's again analyze the information in the post. Let me just open on a new window and I'm going to zoom this. We can look at it and see all the details. Right, let me bring my faithful little helper and I'm going to highlight something. Red is a good color. Let's go with that. So it says the person took the next train and sat there for over half an hour. So now we know two things. First, this was a long ride and we're probably looking for an area on the outskirts of the city. And second, the person did not change lines. They claimed they got in, sat down, and over half an hour later they left the station. It was described as one continuous ride. And what happened outside the station? Let me get another color. It says, I immediately stumbled upon some sort of outdoor cinema just across this huge road. I want you to pay attention to these two words, immediately and just. They both convey a sense of proximity, don't they? The person describes leaving the station and immediately seeing the cinema across the street. So this area here will have to have been visible from the exit of the underground station. They also claim that in order to reach this outdoor cinema, they had to cross a huge road. And by huge road, I'm thinking maybe a main road, likely with several lanes. I don't know. In practice, we're looking at something like, let's just bear with me for a second. I'm going to show you what I think we're looking at. So let me hide all of this. I just want a picture. Right, so this is the outdoor cinema that the person encountered. Then here I'm going to put the underground station, and in the middle, between them, we will have seen, let me zoom this a bit, a huge road. And by a huge road, I'm thinking several lanes. I don't know how many, it doesn't matter. Of course, we don't know if the station was on this side here. It could have been here, could have been on this side, could have been on this other side. It doesn't matter. This is just to illustrate how the text describes the location of these 3 points in relation to each other. And we'll need to visualize this because at some point we'll be looking at the map and this will help us identify the correct place. Right, so there are many ways to geolocate this photo here. Let me open it, this one. We could, for example, look at the Madrid underground map and see what lines go through or start at the Seoul station. Remember the one we found on the previous task? And within those, which could someone ride uninterrupted for over half an hour? We could try finding what is this building here and see if Google Maps or similar tools could tell us where it's located. Or we could use an image reverse search and see if any parts of this photo are identifiable and go from there, etc. Many ways. Realistically, we are not going to be able to cover all of these strategies on the video, so I shall explain the method I used when I was preparing this challenge, because although I took the photo, I have no clue where on earth I was on an evening in Spain almost 15 years ago. So I had to geolocate this as well. And I didn't use any of the methods I just mentioned, so we're going on a completely different direction now. We're going to look at all of it and think about it. It's my favorite method. So let's see what useful information we get from this photo, because we already analyzed the text, wasn't it? So again, orange street lights means that this is an old picture, which we already knew anyway. We can see a big open space with some tall buildings in the distance. So on the left, there is one with a sign that reads Mercadona. And if you Google that word, you'll find that it's the name of a chain of supermarkets in Spain. They have a lot of stores in Madrid, so this is not entirely helpful. We can also see a few trees in the distance. There are no visible signs of an underground station entrance, but since we know that the person saw it immediately, it will be close by. We may also notice that this entire central area is very sterile, isn't it? Big, open and very flat, almost like a big parking space, but without any markings on the ground, so it cannot be one. It doesn't seem to be a park either. There is no playground for kids, there's no green spaces. Overall, it's not entirely clear what this space is usually used for, which limits what keywords we can use to search for the location. Now, let's look at the people here. We have a group of what appears to be children very close to the screen. Then further to the back here, we can see the adults, and they seem to be sitting at different heights. We have these people here at the bottom, then a person higher up, and then whoever took this photo, which was me, is even higher. So either this location already had some sort of structure that allowed people to sit at different heights, or whoever organized the event also brought benches for those who wanted to watch the film. If I had to make an informed guess, I would say the first option is more likely true, as we can see a small van here, and I don't think you can fit that many benches in it, especially not fancy ones with different heights. It's entirely possible that there was a much bigger vehicle outside of the frame, but it's a lot more likely that whoever organized this event picked a location that could already accommodate people wanting to watch a film outdoors. The white van in the middle is also the only visible vehicle parked in this big open space, and it has a partially open side door. There are at least 2 metal fences on each side leading up to the screen and possibly stopping people from accessing this area in the back. Underneath the screen, we can see 2 big blocks, which are likely where the sound is coming from. So all of these details combined point towards that this vehicle is connected to whoever set up the outdoor cinema. You may also notice that the person who took the photo, again it was me, was not sat directly in front of the screen. You can see how there's an angle here, isn't it? We're not facing it. We also know from the post that the person, which was me, randomly ended up on this location after riding the underground for a while. Once outside, they claim to have recognized whatever was happening here as an outdoor cinema, meaning that the film was probably already playing when they showed up. These 2 seemingly unconnected details tell us that there was probably a sizable crowd when the person arrived, and this was the best seat they could find. Because when you want to watch something, we try to sit in a way to facilitate that, and the fact that the person ended up among others watching it from this angle probably means that there were no better seats when they showed up. All of these details that we just looked at in mind, we can safely infer that this was a scheduled event and not something that someone assembled on a random evening in Madrid. And scheduled events are usually advertised, otherwise there is a risk of people not showing up. In a European capital such as Madrid that attracts millions of tourists per year, these sort of events are also probably advertised in English, which is great for us because my Spanish sucks. I did used to speak fluent Spanish many years ago, but then some guy I knew who was most definitely hitting on me told me that my Spanish accent was very sexy, which was incredibly creepy because he was old enough to be my dad. So I kind of stopped speaking Spanish after that. Didn't want to lead all these Spanish men into temptation or something. I'm joking. It was just that one. All the other Spanish men I met were lovely. Anyway, let's not get sidetracked with random stories from my life. We're now looking for information about this outdoor cinema event, which was very likely advertised online and possibly in English. So how can we find it? Simple, we're just going to Google it. Why complicate things, right? And for that, we need 3 things that we would expect to find in an ad: the where, the when, and the what. The where is the location, the when is the date of the event, and the what will be outdoor cinema and the name of the film. We know that this took place in Madrid, as it says so on the post. There you go. Back from Madrid. We don't know the specific location, that is what we're trying to find out, but at least we know the city, which is good enough, so we have the where. We can narrow down the date because the post, here we go, was from the 7th September 2010, and the person claimed at the end that they were back home safe and sound, and at the top it says it was a short trip, so probably less than a week. Anything over a week I wouldn't really consider a short trip, especially not with colleagues. This means that the event likely took place within the first week of September. So we have the when. Now for the what, we can very quickly find the name of the film because I was very nice and left very obvious keywords in the text. Look at what it says here. I'm going to highlight with whatever color I have here. It says it was something about a father and son traveling to Mecca. Here we go. I also left a very nice clue when I included I could barely understand the story. It wasn't even in Spanish. And that tells us two things. First, the film was not in Spanish. That is the obvious one. And second, the person who is writing this in English barely understood it. So the film was also not in English. Okay, so let's see what we can find with a simple Google search that says film about a father and son traveling to Mecca, which is literally the wording I used in the post. And look at that, the great journey, le grand voyage. My French also sucks, but I never had a Frenchman hitting on me, which is nice, I think. Maybe I should be offended, I don't know. Anyway, it says here that the film was released in 2004. It was a drama and it lasted 1 hour and 48 minutes. So now that we have the what, let's search for this outdoor cinema event because like I said, it would have been advertised. So we're going to put the three things we need, the when, the where, and the what. So this is our search string. We have the September 2010 is the when, Madrid is the where, outdoor cinema, and Le Grand Voyage is the what. And look at that first beautiful result. Ramadan Nights Festival, open air, free admission, amazing. I also included that nice detail on the text. It was a free event. So let's click on this link and see what it says. I'm just going to search for voyage to speed this up. Here it is. And let me zoom this again so you can see all the details. And here it is, Le Grand Voyage, 2004, 108 minutes, which does correspond to 1 hour and 48 minutes that we saw on the previous page. It says here that it was on Madrid on several dates, but only one of them on the first week of September. It says here, public space for diverse uses, Avenida del Ensanche, 79, Metro Las Huertas, time 21:30, open air cinema, free admission according to space availability. Amazing. So we have an address and we haven't even looked at the map yet. How amazing is that? We can geolocate the photo without even opening Google Maps for this task. Just critical thinking. Okay, let's go again and let's put this on a map. Now, do you remember the drawing I did at the start explaining the location of the 3 points in relation to each other? This is where it gets handy. So here we see an underground station. Here is a huge road. Look at that, many lanes. I can even put this on. You can see there's a lot of lanes on it. And across from it, we can see a big open space, which what appears to be steps where people could sit at different heights. Look at that. We can double check the location by looking at some photos. So if you click on this, there'll be some photos of this area. And let's click the second and look at this. Let me put them side by side. Here we go. We have the Mercadona supermarket on the left. We have the big open space, we have the trees. This one's much bigger because it was 2018. And you have these two buildings in the distance. It's a perfect match. And we have found our answer, the name of the huge road. Let me just put this here. The name of the huge road the person crossed on that evening from here to here was Avenida del Ensanche de Vallecas. Let's hope there's no Spanish man listening to this. Okay, so let's get to the third and last task. Here we go. Let me put this big again. Assuming there were no delays, the exact time in hours and minutes when the second photo was taken. So this one again, we're going back to this photo again. Here we go. And now we have a chronolocation on our hands. There are multiple ways to chronolocate a photo or a video. Most times we can just do it by observing the shadows, but that is not possible in this situation because this photo was taken in the evening. So what then? We're going to pay attention to details again. It's my favorite thing to do. If you thought that looking at this person's watch was the way to go, I'm sorry to say you were on the wrong track for several reasons. First, we have no idea at what point on their night out this photo was taken. We just know that this was the starting location of this little adventure. The photo could have been snapped at 80 points in the evening. Additionally, we know that the group were tourists in Madrid on a short trip. Analog wristwatches, such as this one, do not automatically change the time when they enter a new time zone. It has to be done manually. Therefore, there's a possibility that this person, who perhaps was living in a country with a different time zone and was just in Madrid for a few days, didn't bother to change the time. So we cannot rely on this detail. But there are other details, not on this photo. This photo is completely relevant for the third task. we need this one. But first, let's look at the wording of the task briefing again. It specifically says, assuming there were no delays. This implies something scheduled. It could have been the underground running on time, or it could have been the outdoor cinema starting when scheduled. And what we already know, we know that this film was scheduled to start at 21:30. It said so there. So assuming there were no delays and the underground was running on time and the film started at 21:30, how can we find out when this photo was taken? It's very simple, and this is also the method I used to solve it, because again, I had no idea when I took this photo. I did verify I was correct at the end because I have access to the metadata. Let's zoom on the exact center of this photo, the actual film. We can see a frame of it, and films move at a steady pace. We know that it lasted 1 hour and 48 minutes because we found that information in more than one place online, including here with the 108 minutes. So if we were to identify in which minute this specific scene took place, we could just add it to the 21:30 and end up with the exact time the photo was taken. And for that, we need to find a copy of the Le Grand Voyage. Right, I'm not saying you should illegally stream this film, I'm just saying it can be found online, and for this task we just need to look at a few frames. So let's just jump to Google and search for Le Grand Voyage 2004, which is the date of its release. So we just need now to click on videos, and I'm going to click on tools, duration long, because we don't want any short clips, we want the entire thing. Brilliant. Now there is a slight problem. We have these three good options with different lengths. The first one has 1 hour and 47 minutes and 33 seconds, this one 1 hour 42 minutes and 42 seconds, and this one is 1 hour 42 minutes and 19 seconds. How do we know which was the one screened on the outdoor cinema in Madrid in 2010? Well, technically we cannot know for sure. However, the website with the announcement, remember it was here, specifically says the film was 108 minutes long, which amounts to 1 hour and 48 minutes. This means that out of these three options, the top one is the most likely one to be correct, because it has 1 hour, 47 minutes and 33 seconds, which could round up to 1 hour and 48 minutes, and everything will be perfect. But there is another problem, I'm very sorry. If you watch the first few minutes of the film, and let me see if I can play it, I'm going to pause, and when it gets to about 3 minutes and, oh my god, am I going to get this right? 3 minutes and 20 almost. At some point, the guy pauses the video here, changes the settings, and at some point he's just like, yeah, I'm going to just go back and start all over again. So he just goes back all the way to the beginning, and the film starts again when it's on the minute 3 and 32 seconds. So this is a problem, obviously, because this video has a longer version, not because it's the correct one, but because it played the first 3 minutes and 19 seconds twice. So we cannot use this one. I'm sorry, this one has to go. We're going to use this one here instead, mostly because I cannot play this one. It's on daily motion and it asks me to disable ad block, and I'm like, hell no. So I'm going with this one. Here we go. So I'm going to just pause it here. Right, so now I want to give a quick warning. This is also technically not the correct video, and I'll explain why afterwards. In the meanwhile, I'm going to find a frame of the photo we saw taken in Madrid, and I can tell you that the best way to identify this exact scene is to look at the clothes of the man in the center. He's only wearing this very specific outfit for about 3 minutes in the film, so it's fairly easy to narrow down this frame. So let me just pause it and come back when I find this scene. Here. Okay, here we go. This is the best I could get. It's not easy to pause on the exact frame, but the scene took place at the 30-minute and 50-second mark. You can see there, the man on the left was holding some money. Here it is. The man in the center was looking at the money, and we have on the right a man with a hat. Right, so this means that the film had been playing for at least 30 minutes. Knowing that it had started at 21:30, again assuming there were no delays, it was exactly 10 p.m. local time when the photo was taken, almost 22:01. But there is a small problem, because like I said, the film should have lasted 1 hour 48 minutes, yet this full video is only 1 hour and 42 minutes, and it does seem to contain the entire film from start to finish, including full credits. So why is it shorted by a few minutes? We know, or at least we can find out quickly, that the original film premiered at film festivals, and the versions we were able to find online are likely DVD rips. These tend to be a bit shorter in general than their cinema version. This could be due to director cuts or to a difference in frames per second, making the DVD version slightly faster and therefore shorter. It is possible to confirm this theory by checking the properties of the video we just watched. We could, for example, not saying you should, but you could download this video and then look at the properties of the file. I know for a fact that if you were to do that, you would find out that this video has 25 frames per second, which is the standard in Europe. It's also standard that cinema versions are recorded at 24 frames per second. This small difference could explain why this video is 1 hour and 42 minutes instead of the 1 hour and 48 minutes. It is also possible to convert this 25 frames per second video into a 24 frames per second video. If you were to do that, you end up with a 1 hour and 46 minutes and 25 second film, which is still slightly shorter than the official version, possibly again to director cuts. Now, at this point, I want to make it clear that I would happily accept a 10 p.m. answer. It's good enough. However, if you wanted to be extra detailed, you could try to figure out where the same scene would be visible on a 24 frames per second video. And I can bring it here because I know the answer. Don't ask me how I got this screenshot though. So this scene on a 24 frames per second video, which is likely the frame rate used on a screening at the outdoor cinema, takes place at the 32-minute and 7-second mark. That means that the photo would have been taken at 22:02. But again, this converted version was still shorter than 1 hour and 48 minutes, meaning that perhaps there were some director cuts. What we can confirm is that, assuming there were no delays, the second photograph would have been taken on the 4th of September 2010 at a skating rink located near the Las Suertes underground station, at least at 22:02, possibly 22:03. Chronolocations in general can be a bit tricky, and this challenge provides an example of how you can still solve one when there are no shadows available to analyze. I hope you enjoyed the challenge that I created for the 2025 inCyber Forum OSINT Day. Have a great week.